Hello and welcome back. I'm Dan Easton from GEET Life, and today I'm presenting on behalf of GEET International and all the GEET dealerships. What we'd like to show you is the latest refinements on this Honda GX160 system that all the dealerships will now be issuing as a set of plans for you to build at home. This reactor set is matched to this engine and it's tuned up so it will run on petrol, it will use 1/4 to 1/3 less fuel, it has totally clean exhaust, and it's more or less full power. I've made a full set of videos that goes through how to build it, how to machine all the parts, assemble it, put it on the engine and test it. If you want to buy an engine and build a GEET system, build this, test it, and then contact the dealership that issued the plans and give them the various information that you're told to give as part of the pack. And they can then provide you with tech support for that engine. If you want to put a GEET system on another engine, then there's a lot more work that you have to do and a lot more support the dealerships have to provide in order for you to get there. For most people this is a hobby, it's not something they're doing as a business venture. They just want to get an engine, build a GEET system, and then they want to run the engine on coffee and ginger beer and whatever else they want to put in the tank. If you use this system and build a bubbler like this or something similar to this, you can then do that. When you ring up your dealership for tech support and tell them that your reactor temperature is exceeding some specification, or you describe to them what the engine is doing, or preferably show them a video of your engine running, they're going to be able to help you to identify exactly what's wrong with it and put it right. If you want to work on an unknown random engine, fine, okay, you can do that, but this set will need to be modified to suit that engine. The purpose of the set of plans is to give you a starting point for you to work it out for yourself. Up to this point, the plans have been for a generic system. So that's the instructions of how to build a reactor, how to build air management valves and bits and pieces, and put them on an engine, and then you phone up your dealership for tech support and they help you to refine it and get it to actually work properly. Having got a working system, if you want to then spend time playing what happens if, great, you've got a starting point to work from, and you can go backwards and you can go, what happens if I have too short an exhaust pipe or too long an exhaust pipe? What happens when I take this rod out and I change it for a different one? Whatever you want to do, you can explore, and we can help you to work your way through this. If you want to know how to build one and tune it and refine it in the way that I do, then you need to come to class so we can give you all the information in a nice, concise order. This is great so far. Now, when I've then spoke to people about them buying a set of plans, the first thing they turn around and say is, I want to put it on this other engine. And I explain, if you put it on another engine, you're going to have to do some refining and some rebuilding and redesign work in order to get it to work on that engine. But people don't understand why. Why should it work on one and not work on another? An engine has a set of principles that govern the way it works, or describe how it works. There's a piston that goes up and down, it pulls in a fuel and air mix, puts it under compression, a spark ignites it, it has a power stroke and an exhaust stroke, and an exhaust gas is expelled from the engine. All four-stroke engines work in the same way. A GEET system has a set of requirements and specifications exactly the same as an engine. There's a hot gas and a cold vapour travelling in opposite directions, there's a rod involved, there's some given temperature ranges, and there's some given vacuum ranges that you try to replicate and achieve by building the right set of pipework. But every engine is different. Now, come over here and let's look at some carburetors and maybe we can explain why. Okay, on the workbench here, we have some carburetors. This is a carburetor from a chainsaw. This is a carburetor from a chainsaw, and this is a carburetor from the Honda engine. Now look, it's a completely different carburetor, okay? These run little tiny engines, this runs a 125, and if you've got a 400cc or 500cc engine, it's got a bigger carburetor. Okay, just because this can't run an engine, you can't take this and fit this where this is supposed to be, would you then turn around and say, the technology of a carburetor doesn't work? Would you phone up the manufacturer of this carburetor and say, hey, can I put this on my car? And when they turn around to you and say, no, sorry, it's not big enough, are you going to write them a letter and complain that their carburetor ought to be able to run your 2-litre car? You're not, are you? I mean, that would be ridiculous. So why is it when you say this reactor set works on this engine And you can put it on another engine of a very similar size and it's going to work with a minor adjustment, but if you want to put it on a bigger engine, you need to start from scratch and design a reactor set for your engine. That people find this so hard to deal with, and very often get really aggressive towards me and complain that that doesn't do the same job as that does. Okay, that's that little rant over. Okay, are we good so far? You now understand that this is a system for this engine. It'll probably work on something with a similar size engine if you're prepared to do some work and modify it. If you want to put one on a bigger engine, start from the beginning, build a bigger reactor set and work your way through. Right, classes. There's a new thing coming up with classes. The way we're going to do this now is I'm going to film the theory classes that I've been working on over the last couple of years. So we have a standardised set of videos that you can go through without actually coming to a dealership. So that means you don't have to pay for flights and accommodation and travel and all the rest of it. You can buy that. It will be available from all the dealerships, all the various dealerships around, as everyone comes up to speed with it and they're able to work with it properly. You can go to them, you can buy the videos, you can watch that. Then when you decide you want proper hands-on training and you want to use expensive equipment like gas analyzers and the rod reader here and that kind of thing, you can come to class, and at that point you can probably bring in the engine that you've been working on and put it there and spend a week in the workshop with your instructor and really spend time working on your system. The other reason we're doing this is that people forget. They forget what they were taught in the class. It's maybe been 6 months since they've been to school and they're busy doing other things, they've forgotten stuff. You can go back to the video and you can watch them again and again and again. Okay, coming to class. Right now you can go to class in America with a couple of dealerships there. I believe our Canadian dealership is holding classes. Can't come to class with me in Europe because I'm actually moving. So I'm leaving England and I'm going to Morocco to join the QEG team and work on some projects over there. Once I'm in and I'm set up and I've moved all my stuff, you'll be able to come to class with me in Morocco. At the moment, if you want a class, I will come to where you are and teach you. And I bring some of my equipment with me. You need to have a workshop with pillar drills and angle grinders and vices and the stuff hanging on the wall. I'll bring the gas analyzers and all the threading sets and the things that you won't typically have in a workshop. So we can do a class there. I'm doing private classes then, or classes up to a maximum of 6 people. I don't want to teach too many in one go. I want to keep the class sizes small. So you'll be able to contact me or contact David from GEET International and he'll put you across to me. So you can book a class. When I teach a class, I teach on this engine. The reason I teach on this engine is I want to teach and not do R&D. I want to be able to stand there and go, okay, here you are, here is a nice coordinated process where I'm going to teach you all this stuff. I don't need to be standing there trying to figure out what's happening on an engine that I don't know while trying to teach you what I'm doing. It's really confusing and it takes too long. There isn't time on the class for me to be umming and ahhing as to what's happening. You want to learn how to build a system on an engine, how to test it, make an assessment of what it's doing, plan what you're going to do to modify it, and then do that. That is what I'm teaching. So you're going to learn on this little engine. If you want to put it on a much bigger engine, don't bother trying to ring me up and say, hey, I want a class and I want it on this. I'm not coming to do R&D for anybody else. If you want me to come and do R&D because you're a company and you want to put it on a truck or a train or whatever it is, great, that's a separate package. I will provide a design service, but that's going to be 10 times the price of me coming to teach basic class. I'm happy to work with people, I'm happy to do stuff, but let's keep these two things as separate parts of the equation, guys. The last thing I want to talk about today is the other commonly asked question: prove that GEET does what it says it does. How do I do that? I'm going to throw this out to everybody. How do you want me to prove that a reactor set does what we say it does? Because I can find any number of demonstrations that we can do, But unless someone watching it actually understands what an engine does in the first place, they don't see the relevance of the demonstration. So I've got stacks of video. I've actually got a terabyte of video from the last 3 years where I've been developing systems, designing systems, and doing all kinds of things. I haven't put anything up online because it creates too much attention and too much confusion, and I end up spending all of my days answering internet trolls who just want to have a go at me. Proving it works. These engines have a known exhaust emission. You know, there's a little video I put on recently where I've shown this one running, and I put up the figures for the exhaust emissions as factory standard. There are videos I've made of that engine running and being tested as factory standard. But I've gone through all the different loads and fuel consumption and everything else. They're 2-hour-long videos, and I don't actually think anyone's going to watch them. So I haven't posted them yet, and I'm not happy that I've got all the videos footage ready and everything set up. So you'll just have to bear with me while I put this together. But when I show an engine that has 19, 20, 21% oxygen in the exhaust, this is proof. Okay? You can't run an engine and get oxygen contents the same as air if the GEET system is not working. You simply can't. These engines have between 0% oxygen, 4% and 6%, depending on the age and the model. That's how much oxygen is normally in the exhaust on these engines. They have a very high unburnt hydrocarbon content because that is what keeps the engine cool. If you were to reduce the fuel until your unburnt hydrocarbon came down to 0 and your oxygen content went up to 12 to 14%, the engine will melt. It will physically glow. It can't run like that. They're never designed to run like that. They're designed to have 200 to 300 parts per million unburnt fuel with very little to no oxygen left in order to keep the engine running properly. When you're looking at something that's got 16% oxygen, the engine should have seeped. If it's got 18 and 19% oxygen, at that point I know a GEET system is now working. If it's below that, it's anywhere between a GEET and a vaporising carburetor, or in one moment it's running as GEET and the next moment it's running as a vaporising carburetor. It's almost there, but it isn't great. Once you've got 18, 19% oxygen in the exhaust, this is now a physical impossibility. You can't burn petrol and not use up oxygen. And I believe on the last clip I've got, there's actually a moment where the engine's running at 21 point something% oxygen. That is the same oxygen content as air. It's burned some, it's produced some, it's done whatever it's done. And it really doesn't matter how a GEET system works. You know, I could say there are magic pixies in there that do whatever. Does it matter? Because I don't think it does matter. The important thing is that instead of having this huge amount of pollution, there is now no pollution, quite frankly. It's a 95, 100% reduction in pollution. You're very lucky to get perfectly 100% reduction in pollution on one of these engines. They are very, very dirty. All these little engines, not Honda, not having a pop at Honda, all these little engines are incredibly dirty. They are 3 or 4 times more polluting than a car engine. Car engine works really, really well, and they're really efficient, and they're a nice big block with water cooling in it. They don't need to throw fuel in to keep the engine cool, so they have much cleaner emissions. If you put a GEET system on a car engine, then you're going to end up having such small quantities of pollution that the testing equipment no longer sees it. So you can say 0 pollution. And in some cases my gas analyzer says negative hydrocarbons. Now those gas analyzers, they work by calibrating to air. So when it says 0 hydrocarbon, that's actually not true. Air has pollution in it. We all know this. This is why we're making GEET in the first place. If you go down to a garage and you use a snap-on analyzer in the garage, the big bench-mounted ones, they're calibrated to an actual 0 in gas. And they read 20, 30, 40 parts per million hydrocarbon in air as standard. Then when you run the system and you go below that and you see 10 parts per million, you're in negative hydrocarbons. The handheld unit I've got, it calibrates to air, it says 0, and then it says minus hydrocarbon. That's because it's dipped below its calibration level, but I don't know how far below because I haven't got any way of tuning that. At some point maybe I can go down to a dive centre and I can get a bottle of dive gas which is completely clean, calibrate my machine with that, and then look at air, and we'll see how much is actually around us. But again, I don't really think that's that important. It's quite a nice demonstration, but is it really necessary? When the simple factor is, you can't run a petrol engine and have 18, 19, 20, 21% oxygen in the exhaust. Ever. It doesn't matter what the engine is, it doesn't matter how clever you are, it doesn't matter what the computer control system does, you simply cannot achieve that. By putting it through this, we have removed all of the carbon. The petrol that's going in here is not arriving over here. It's not running on petrol anymore, that's why we've got the emissions that we have. This is proof, okay? This is solid proof. When you're looking at an engine that's got no load on it, you could argue that it doesn't have a load, this is no good. When you're looking at an engine that's producing half power and using half the fuel, you could argue that it's actually not gaining anything because it's not using up the fuel, but it's not producing power. When you've got an engine that's running at full or almost full power, and it's using less fuel and it has totally clean emissions, where's the argument? Where is the actual argument that there's something not right here? Okay, this is the question that I'm posing to everybody. What do you want me to do? I've got on the floor over there another one of these engines that hasn't had anything done to it, and I'll put the gas analyzer on it and we'll run that one and we'll have a quick look at the emissions, and then I'll start this one up and I'll stick the probe in, and we'll just have a look so you can see in one video the difference. Alright, so look, no time like the present, hey? Got an engine, got a workshop, I'm here, I'll do this now. Let's have you have a quick look at this engine so you know it's the same one. The gas analyzer's here and the probe is out the window, so it's calibrating in fresh air. Let's bring you over so you can see the engine. One engine. Honda GX160. This one's got a Silverline label on it because it's a Silverline generator, but they're all the same engine. Right. Go. Look at there. Nice big silencer on them. And okay, not done anything to it other than to open up the cap, check it's got some oil, and then give it a quick run. Let's park you up here. Let that finish calibrating. Let's start the engine and warm it up. Give that a moment to run. Okay. Standard oxygen content for air. Okay, and hydrocarbons on the top. Now let's get our probe. And hook it from there. Shove it in there. Put on it, keep it in. Okay, definitely in there, right? Now we'll wait for the gas to come through to the analyzer. Okay. See? Definitely still in there. There we go. Before I gas myself, let's sort that out. Hello. Okay. So, there you go. Factory standard emissions for an engine, unmodified, not done anything to it. exactly what it is I said it was in the video. Right, so I will now cut in the video for another day. Hello and welcome back to GEET Life. Today I've been running my little new carburetor here. This is a tiny little model aircraft carburetor with servo control. I haven't got it hooked to the box yet, but I can just put it to a position that I want and then have a little play with it. So I'll let you have a quick look at the first couple of runs. Meanwhile, I'm going to cool everything down, take the rod out and do a little bit of work to it. We just pulled 1200 watts without any problem, 1400 watts is okay, but I want to see 1500 and 1600. Our target is 1700. That's what this is rated to produce. So I'm just going to do a little work to the rod and see if I can ease the power up, but this just checked out as being a really great, beautiful little thing. We'll be doing these with the new sets. Okay, stay tuned and come back to the next video. Perfect burn, that's a perfect fuel delivery, everything else is great. Okay, minimum load, so no load, so on nothing at all, it's running at generating speed, but check that out. No carbon dioxide, no carbon monoxide, tiny bit. Fantastic. 750 watts of load, full voltage, 3.5 amps, 730 watts on there. Here we go. Awesome. Almost 21% oxygen. Okay, let's get a little bit more. Nothing. Okay, wind it up a little bit more. Something. Put in 1300 watts over here. Still holding on this. Still running. Let's see if I can get a bit more. Almost 1500, 1400, 1500 occasionally. Still holding reactor conditions. Within acceptable range. That's within acceptable range. That's fine. Okay, so my new little adaptations have meant I've got really nice clean fuel delivery, and we're holding our oxygen content. What you're looking at there, 20% oxygen, that's air. Okay, hydrocarbons, we've got a tiny little bit. Normally this is like a couple of hundred. That would be a normal looking reading for this engine as factory standard. This is coming because as soon as the reactor shut down, some fuel has travelled through and it's picking it up unreacted. So you get, you know, that. Okay, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, so normally this would be about 12-14%, and carbon monoxide would be 4% to 6%, and we're seeing like nothings and points of something. So we're looking at like these two, 90% to 100% reduction in CO2, the same for CO. Oxygen would normally be 4 to 6%, down to 0, and we're looking at 20s, which is air. So we're actually returning something clean, and we've got pretty much full power. I might be able to ease a little tiny bit more off of this rig and fettle it up a bit more, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at with this now. I hope you guys like it. Okay, I'm going to climb off my soapbox now. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's watching at home for bearing with me, and thanks to all the other dealerships for all the work they've done over the years. And I hope to talk to you all very soon. Thanks a lot.